right? You remember? We have installed Ansible through EPL repository. You know
Yep,
what is
yep.
EPL? EPL stands for Extra Packages for Enterprise Linux,
Mhm.
right? It is an
Mhm.
open source repository. You can add
Oh,
it on any machine. That's not a problem.
yep, yep. Got it.
Okay, I have just showed you how to subscribe to Red Hat, but we did not install anything from Red Hat.
Oh,
Okay,
okay. So I
I
thought we're gonna set up
yeah,
some
yes.
to receive the updates from RHN. So I thought of mimicking that.
No, no,
So
no, no, not required. Not now. When you go
okay,
for tower, we will discuss more about it,
okay, all right.
right?
That's
So just try to, you can use it. That's not a problem. It is better instead of Fedora, you can also use CentOS also. Why? Because Red Hat always use Fedora and CentOS only, right?
yeah.
Right. So for any research or any R&D, so that's not a problem. You can use it.
Yep.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So
Thank you.
fine. Now what we will do is very simple. Let us go with the second chapter here. So as we discussed yesterday about how do we set up a lab. Okay, and I hope uh, I mean if anyone is having any difficulties, like let me know in setting the lab. Otherwise, we will go with something called deploying Ansible. That is nothing but already we deployed Ansible, but we will start working with inventory today. We will see how exactly the inventory is going to work. We will see all these things. All right. So when we talk about inventory, very simple, defining the inventory. An inventory defines a collection of hosts that Ansible will manage. So it's a collection of hosts that the Ansible is going to manage. So basically, like you have a small environment and where we have a 50 managed host. So 50 managed hosts is nothing but we have a 50 machines that are part of different application, different tools, different services, right? And what we want to do is we want to manage that applications and tools and services through Ansible. So what you will do, you will try to collect the 50 machines host name, either IP address, or either fully qualified domain name, right? It is not required to add all these three information for one single machine is not required. If you want, you can add it also. That's all depends on your requirements, right? So you will open the inventory and you will try to put host name or you will try to put fully qualified domain name. Otherwise, you will put the IP address. This is what exactly we're going to put, right? This host can also be assigned to group. This host can also be assigned to the group, which can be managed collectively, So what is this exactly? This host can be assigned to the group in a sense. Take a small example. I'll give you, like you have written an inventory like this. VIM, INVENTOR inventory. This is a file name. And many times you will also have a doubt. Should I always define the inventory name as just inventory? Or can I put any name? It's up to you. It is not mandatory that you should put the name as inventory. You can put Java. Okay. You can put Oracle, DB, or you can put something called prod. You can put something called test. You can put something called development. Anything you can put it. But the problem here is if I put simply name, how I will recognize it as inventory, right? So what we have to do is for that reason only what people do is Oracle DB underscore INV. INV stands for inventory. This is the way how we are going to put it, right? Extensions are not mandatory, just for recognition we are putting it, right? See, for example, you will write a script. Okay, script.sh. If you don't put sh, will it not work? 100% it will work. This extension gives you information that It is not a normal file, it is a script, right? At the same time, when it comes to Ansible also, when you are writing, when you are defining a inventory, it is not mandatory that you should define an extension, but still if you put an extension, that will be easy for you to recognize the inventory, right? So what I'll do is inventory. So I have created an inventory file here. Now I need to define the list of host here. What is list of host? So whatever the machines I want to manage, their host names and IP addresses need to be managed here. I mean, need to be updated here. So I'm trying to put server A, I'm trying to put server B, I'm trying to put server C, I'm trying to put server D. This is called list of hosts. And this list of hosts can be grouped here. What is mean by group? Assume that you want to perform some collective operations on web server, on database server. What I will do, I'll try to group here as web server, and I'll try to put the name as server A and server D. These two are web servers, right? So when I just try to put this group name, in the playbook, right? What it will do? It immediately hits the machine called server A and server B, server D. You're getting my point. Now at the same time, like for example, I'm going to put something called DB server, and inside this I'll put server B and server C. So whenever you put web's DB server inside the playbook, it is going to hit server B and server C. This is what exactly it is going to happen. Is this clear? Right? This is something called group, right? Now what we will do is you can with for I mean which can be managed collectively, okay? And group can contain child groups and host can be a member of multiple groups. So we will discuss what is this child group also. So take an example. You got an requirement saying that you need to perform a task on all these four missions. Then what you will do, we will create a child group. The child group will be something called DC. DC stands for data center, and CHILDEREN, children. You need to say like this, and you need to put something called web server. You need to put something called DB server. You're getting my point? Now, whenever in the inventory you write DC, it is going to hit the groups called web server as well as DB server, right? So this is something called a child group, or this is something called nested group. And remember, a host can be a member of multiple groups, it is saying. So host can be a member of multiple groups. Means right now we have a server A and server D, server B and server C. Here you can have server C also. Here we can have server A also. Okay, I hope you're following, right? So this is basically how a inventory will look. Okay, these are the rules, or these are the conditions that we need to follow. And inventory can also set variables. So we can write variables through the inventory, right? But remember one thing, writing inventory in the writing variables in the inventory is really not a good method. It is a deprecated method, but still when it comes to real-time environment, you will see most of the well-written playbooks, they support, they write variables at inventory level also. Okay, so we will discuss variables later, not now. Okay, the host inventories can be defined in two ways. One is a static inventories can be defined by a text file, and dynamic host inventories can be generated by a script or other programs as needed using an external information provider. So this is basically how it is going to work. This is how exactly it is going. Okay, and specify the managed host with a static inventory. So how do we specify a managed host to a static inventory? So this is an inventory. A static inventory file is a text file. Okay, and this text file will be in which format, whatever the inventory that you're going to write, that will be in INI style format. Or you can write your inventory even in YAML. Okay, these are the things we can do. But right now what we are doing is we are going to write the inventory in normal text file only. Okay, so now what we will do is very simple. We will try to connect to the control node and we will try to write that inventory. So I'll just try to go back 1 minute. There is some problem with the control node. Actually, it got into an installation. Let me shut down. Let me power on and go into the BIOS to make the changes. Oh my God. Hmm. Now it comes up. Let the machine come up. We will try to configure an inventory. Yes, I'm just trying to log in as a root user here. Then later I'll try to switch to the Ansible user. So, right. So we are here. So, but before we write an inventory, let me by default show you the default inventory file. Because as you know that yesterday we have installed Ansible, and when you run Ansible hyphen version, it is going to give you, this is the default configuration file. etc ansible.cfg is the default ansible.cfg file, right? As it is a default ansible.cfg file. Now what we will do is very simple. We will try to get into this location to see etc ansible. I'll just try to say ls. This is a default host file. Okay, and this is a default host inventory file. You can say it is an inventory file, and see there is no extension, nothing. By seeing this file you will never know that it is an inventory file, but host is an by default inventory file provided by the vendor means Red Hat. You're getting it? So now let me open this particular file and you will try to understand like how exactly. First of all, you should understand the rules here. So this is a default Ansible host file. Host file is nothing but inventory file that lives in this particular location, and you need to follow this steps. Okay. Comment. What is the use of comment? You know it very well because you are working with Linux and Unix. Okay. If you want to comment a parameter, I mean, you don't want that to reflect your machine, then you need to comment it. Then blank lines are ignored. Group of hosts are delimited by the square braces, and you can enter host name or IP address. Host name and IP addresses can be member of multiple groups. Can you see this? Right? And this is the way how we are going to see this. An example. What it is saying, it is called ungrouped host. It is something called ungrouped host. And per line one host, it has been defined. Per line one host. Can you see this? This are I mentioned this is yesterday I mentioned it because to run a ad hoc command. Okay, so these are nothing but group. Can you see this web server is a group? And you see this is something called range. Okay, this is something called range. Okay, so this is the way like how exactly it is going to work. In the same way, you can define an inventory or you can use this inventory, right? So you will ask me one doubt here. If I'm using this inventory, which is located in a default location, that is called etc Ansible, is there any problem? Is there any problem? Yes, you should know this, right? That's a very important thing. So I'll give you some examples here why we should not maintain a inventory in a default location. Assume that you have a different environment in your data center, right? It is like you can see this is different environments we have, right? We have a different environments, right? So as we have a different environments here, you can just observe this like this we have. Now assume that this is a test environment. This is a test environment here. This is a test environment. And now we will go for this is something called DB environment. And this is something called uh, what we say prod one environment. Then this is something called Java. And in each environment, we have a hundred machines. We have 100 machines here. Here also we have 100 machines. Here also we have, here we will have more machines because it's a production. We have assumed that 400 machines. And here also we have 100 machines. This is what exactly your environment is. Is this clear? Now take a small example. This is your control node. You're sitting here with a control node here. This is your control node. So as we have a control node here, then as just now we have seen that the default inventory file is etc ansible host, right? Is it host or host? Only host. Host is host. This is a default inventory file. If you are trying to define all this 800 machines or 700 machines, because it's all static inventory, because we don't have any dynamic inventories, we are not maintaining it. We are just going with static inventory. If you are defining all these host names into this particular host file, that means it is a single inventory file for all these environments. And if suddenly some spelling mistake goes on, if something wrongly you have written something inside this particular inventory file, a host inventory file, then it is going to affect all the environments. Okay, so that's the reason what exactly the Ansible expert recommend is they say that for every project you need to define a separate inventory file. So you'll say what is mean by every project. Very simple here. See, right now you have logged in as an Ansible user, you know that, and you are going to place somewhere here. This is your home directory. Go to this home directory and try to create 4 project directories. 4 projects. Okay. So I'll just try to create a directory. Here is test env a directory, a db env, and I'll try to create prod1 env, and I'm going to create something called Java env. This is what I'm going to create it, right? So these are the 4 different project directories. Remember that. Now what I will do is whatever the test env project or environment we have, and their 100 machines inventory, I am going to put it here. Test env underscore inventory. I'll try to set up all your test inventory here, and I'll try to put db So db env underscore inv. Okay, then I'll go for prod one env env underscore inv inventory. Then java env underscore inv. So this is the way, like how do we configure an inventory here. So this is going to represent this environment, this is going to represent this environment, and this project is going to represent this environment, and this is going to represent this environment. So you'll ask me why you're putting it, why you're segregating separately, because the test environment you are going to manage, that machines is totally different from DB environment, and DB environment machines are totally different from project. I mean prod one, and prod one environment machines are totally different from Java environment. Is
But
this
we can
clear?
group it, right, in the same file.
Yeah, you can group it in same file or you can group it in separate file. You're getting my, sometimes you have some DB environment servers are there. Okay, it might be a part of production also. Production machines can be can be a part of DB also, right? Sometimes the machines that we are using in production that might be a part of Java environment also, right? So whatever the host that you see in production, that you might see the same host inside the Java inventory and DB inventory also. You're getting my point. See, that's what I'm telling you, right? A host can be a part of multiple inventories, multiple groups also. It is not mandatory that the host that is there inside the Java inventory that should not belong to DB. There is no such rule at all here.
I
Okay.
think I missed something. So we are actually going away from the default inventory file, and we are creating a separate inventory file
Yes,
for each project, right?
each project, for each
Okay.
department, each project, each group, whatever it might be. Okay, when you go to the real-time projects, we have a date, backup team, we have a, backup, we have a database, we have so many things we'll have, right? So like this
Okay.
also we can group it up, right? So this is the
Okay.
way how we are going to do it, right? The reason behind is you are going to segregate the machines and you are going to maintain a separate inventory. Okay, first thing. Why? Because whatever the playbooks that you write for test environment, that is you're going to run it for only test environment, not for production, not for DB, not for Java. Yes or no? Sometimes,
Yeah.
very rarely you might get a common patch that you need to update in DB environment, prod environment, and Java environment. Then at that time, then you need to group it up. You're getting it. So group should be done within the inventory, not across the inventories. Not across the inventories. What is across the inventories? Test inventory is a separate file, separate inventory. DB environment, I mean inventory is a separate, and prod environment is separate, and Java environment is separate. You can't link it all this four different inventories into a one single inventory. Doesn't support. Inside the inventory, we have a group, then we can merge it into a child group or nested group. That is possible, but otherwise it is not possible, right? So I hope you understood that you're going to maintain inventories like this. Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do right now is, instead of putting the default inventories here, I'll try to do one thing. I'm just logged into the machine as an Ansible user. Here I'll try to create one directory with the name called project. So I'll go to the project directory here and I'll try to start creating an inventory. But right now I have not created any inventory. I will try to show you. I'm just trying to create it, right? But before we create an inventory, right? Yesterday we have used the default inventory, right? Let me go into that. Vi, I'll just try to put sudo vi /etc /ansible /hosts. I'll just try to open it. Yesterday I have defined these two lines. Do you remember? I have kept the managed host name as well as IP address. I'll try to delete it It's okay. I'll try to delete it. I'll try to save it. Then actually now what we are doing is we are into a project directory here. So what we will do is I'll just try to create an inventory. So when I just create an inventory here, now I'll try to show you how to be define it. All right. So first of all is the first rule here is whatever the way like we are trying to write an inventory file, that is INI style format inventory. Okay, so we normally how you write a text, normal text in the same way, we are going to define the inventory. So we are going to put something called server A, server B, server C, server D, right? Like this, I'll try to put it. Okay, right now I don't have all these machines. I'm just, it's a dummy names here. Don't worry. Okay, we have only one managed node. Remember that. So what is that name? M node one. Okay, dot lab dot com, right? Or else I will try to put the IP addresses 192.168.27.2.2 is the IP address of my managed node. Okay, like this we can put. This is how we are going to maintain the inventory. If you have multiple IPs, you can put multiple IPs also 192.168.27.2.3. You can put 192.168.27.2.4. Like this you can put, right? Anything it is going to work. This is the way how you're going to put the inventory. Either you can put a host name, either you can put a fully qualified domain name, or either you can put something called IP addresses of the remote machines. So this is a default way like how we are going to create an inventory. This is the way how do we update the host inside the inventory or define the host inside the inventory. Because without updating a host inside the inventory, you can't use that host in the playbook because it will say simply unreachable. Why? Because unreachable, or it will try to give you the host pattern does not match. The host pattern does not match. When it will give unreachable, you have a pattern here, but host is not powered on, it will give you unreachable. If information is not updated in the inventory, then you have used that host name inside the playbook. It will simply say that host pattern doesn't match, right? Then what you need to do is very simple. We need to take the host name or IP address or fully qualified domain of the remote managed host and update into the inventory file, right? So this is very, very, very important thing. Right now, let me save this. I will just try to save this. Now I have created an inventory file in my project directory. Now what I'll do is very simple. I just want to verify this inventory. So you will ask me what is mean by verifying inventory. See, you will update etc host file, right? After updating the etc host file, will you try to verify that whether it is trying to resolve host name to IP address? How do we verify it? Any idea? You will put
NS
in
lookup.
it. No, NS
Oh,
lookup
ping,
ping.
the
Yeah,
FQT.
yes,
Yeah.
you will try to ping the host. If it is able to ping, it is able to resolve the host name to IP address. Okay, then it is confirmed that you can communicate with the host name. At the same time, when it comes to an Ansible environment, when you try to write an host, define an host name inside the inventory, okay, you want to verify it. So if you want to verify it, we need to use an haddock command. Ansible is an haddock command, remember that, right? And what I do is I'll just try to say all is the host pattern. Then I'll just try to say hyphen hyphen list hyphen host. Okay, then what I do is very simple, hyphen I, and I need to define the inventory file. So ANSIBLE, it's a spelling mistake here. Now you see when I just mentioned all, it is listing all the hosts from your inventory. Can you see that? Right? You will say that no, boss, I don't want to list all. I want to verify a particular host, then put that host name here. Then you just try to see, yes, it is able to give you that host name. So this is the way, like how do we verify an inventory? right? Now take an example. I'm trying to put m node 2, right? Is I am able to get m node 2? It says that could not match the supplied host pattern. Okay, no host match, nothing to do. This is what exactly. Is this clear? I hope you are understanding.
How about you mentioned that name and it doesn't ping? So what error it will give?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, please tell me. You are asking something.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm asking is like mention that mnode2 lab.com
Mm-hmm,
in the inside the inventory file and try
mm-hmm,
to run that command.
mm.
What message it will give?
If you put n node 2, it is saying this message, right? Warning it is giving. Can you see this could not match the supplied host pattern? Are you able
No,
to
no.
see? Yeah, tell
What
me.
I was trying to say is add mnode2
Mm.
inside the inventory file and run this command because mnode2 is not existing, right? Outside.
No,
So it's not
even
going to check that.
no, no,
Uh,
no, no. See, even server A, server B is also not existing.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
actually, I missed that part.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, server A, server B is also not existing. This IP is also not existing.
Correct, correct.
We
Yeah,
are
yeah.
verifying just, I mean, someone ask you, okay, we want to trigger a playbook towards this machine. Okay, first, before you trigger a playbook to this machine, because you will write a playbook or someone will give you a playbook, or you will try to download a playbook from the Git or some other repository, and they ask you to target so and so machine, server C. Now you will go to the playbook and you will put server C there. Assume that. Now, okay, inside the playbook you define, but is that machine is there inside the inventory or not? How do we check? You are going to verify using these commands.
Okay.
You're getting my point,
Yeah, this is
right?
just a
Yeah.
list of servers defined
Yes,
inside the inventory file. It's
inventory
not going to
file.
check whether it is a real server or
No,
not.
it is there or not. That is all different thing. First, you need to update it.
Okay.
You're getting my point. Okay. So how you are going to use a ping? See, someone asks you to connect some remote machine. First, you will ping. If it is pinging, then only you will open a party and you will try to put the IP address, you will put the credentials and you will connect. If it is not pinging, will you connect?
No.
No. The same way, someone is asking you to target a particular machine in a remote machine with the name called server D. First, you need to check whether that host is there inside the inventory or not. If it is there, then target it. If it is not there, add it and target it. Is this clear? Right?
Yeah.
So this is the way, like how it is going to work. This is the way how it is going to work, right? So always you should remember this. This is very important thing. Understood? Okay. So now, whenever this is the way, how do we verify? Now we have seen how to update host inside the inventory, and we have seen how to verify it. First of all, I said all is nothing but it is going to verify all the hosts irrespective of their node names. Okay, but if you say that you want to verify a particular name, or you need to verify a particular IP address, take an example, I want to verify this IP address, it is there or not? Yes, it is there, it is there. If it is there, then update into the a playbook and then target that particular machine. So this is the way how it is going to work. This is the way how it is going to work. Is this clear? Right? So right now we have just discussed how do we create an inventory here, and we have created an inventory in INI style text inventory file, and we have seen how to add an host name or IP address or fully qualified domain name each on a single line, right? So why we are talking about each on a single line, I will tell you. Many people, what they think is very simple. When I just go with the inventory, they will think like this, because we always work with the Linux. Can we put comma and can I add the host names like this? Can I put a comma? Can I add a host names like this? Okay. So it is not recommended. It is really not recommended. So always remember that you need to define the host name per line. Okay, each line, one single host name or IP address or fully qualified domain name need to be added. This rule need to be followed by us, right? So this is first thing here. Okay, the second one is nothing but we are talking something about grouping the host, right? So why we have to group a host? Because we want to perform a collective operation. That's the reason we need to perform. We need to group all the host here, whatever it, okay, it might be. So however, your organization, I mean, you organize, manage those into a host groups. The host groups allow you to more efficiently run the against the collection of system. In case each section starts with host groups enclosed within what? Host group should be enclosed within the square braces. Within the square braces. Assume that I'm going to come down here. I'm going to define the groups here. I'll just try to put here as web server. And inside the web server, we will try to put server A, server B, and something called node1 dot lab. Like this, I'm going to define. This is something called group. I'm going to create one more group here that is called DB server. Okay, DB server. And inside this, I'll try to put all these IPs. This is something called groups here. Now try to save this. Now I'll try to show you how do we verify this group. Right now we have verified something called all. We have verified a single host or IP address. Now we will see how do we verify a group. So in the place of this IP address, you need to put the group here that is called web server. So as you put web server, whatever the host that you have defined within the web server group, it is being defined here. It is being listed here, right? Then I'll just try to put DB server. This is something called DB server. So these are the list of IPs that DB server is called, right? Now, apart from this is the way how do we go with the group? I mean, how do we verify the group? Someone call you and said that there is a group with the name called web server. You need to target that. But before I target that, I want to know the list of machines that's there inside this particular group. This is the way how do we verify it? Or someone call you and says that we want to target the machines which are ungrouped. Ungrouped means what? The machines which are not a part of any group. The machines which are not a part of any group are called ungrouped, right? All is nothing but irrespective of group or ungroup. Okay, whatever it might be, you are going to hit it up. This is what exactly it is going to work. I hope you are understanding, right? So this is the basic thing. So we have seen how do we target a group, right? How do we verify a group? This is the information. Now let's go with some other things here. Now we are talking about a host can be a member of multiple groups, right? The host can be a member of multiple group. Let me open the inventory here, INV inventory, and a single host can be a member of multiple groups, I'm saying. Now take an example. I'm having something called em node. This is a host. I'm just trying to put it here. I'm having this IP. I'm trying to put it here. That means a single host can be a member of multiple groups. So you will say how it is possible, how it is very simple. I am having one machine. I'm having one server which is running with Oracle as well as Java. Okay, and the Oracle, because it is having Oracle, it will be a member of Oracle. Because it is running Java, it will be a member of Java group also. Right? You're getting my point. So this is the way. So very simple. A host can be a member of multiple groups, right? So this is very important thing. You can just see this example. You can just see this example. Okay, the machine which is there here, it is a part of each data center. The machine which is there here, this is also part of each data center. This is part of West data center. This is all about, and this might be a production also. Can you see this? So this is how exactly it's going to. So host can be a part of multiple groups. Okay. Now apart from this, now what we will do is very simple. We are talking something about nested group. So what is nested group here? I'll try to give you a small example here. So when I'm talking about nested group, you take an example. I'll give you one example here. Uh, I'll just try to put. I'm having one environment in Pune. Okay, okay, or Mumbai. Okay, I'm having one environment in Delhi. Okay, I'm having one environment somewhere in part of North India. Mm, okay, so right like this we are having. Now, here we have a 10 machines, 10 servers. Here we have a 10 machines. Here we have a 10 machines, right? Like this example. So these are 10 machines. They are grouped up. Right now we want to perform, we want to make a child group here, nested group here, how it is going to work. I'll just try to put here the nested group as like this: North India colon CHILDEREN children. Okay. And then I'll try to put MUM Mumbai. I'll try to put DELHI Delhi and PUNE Pune. Now, whenever you want to target Mumbai, Delhi, and Pune, okay, what you're going to define, what will be your inventory, this thing, it has been named as something called what? It is named as North India. So when we take a North India on your playbook, that means it is going to hit Mumbai, it is going to hit Delhi, it is going to hit Pune. You're getting my point. This is something called a nested group. This is something called a nested groups, right? So always remember the nested group should be represented using this suffix. What is the suffix? Colon children. If you are not representing the suffix with the colon children, it doesn't recognize this as a nested group. Okay, so this is very, very important thing that you need to remember. So this is like you can see USA and Canada, it has been called as North America, and the suffix should be always children. If you don't define this suffix as a children, then you don't recognize this as a children group, right? This is all about. Now everything is fine. I hope you understood about the host patterns inside the inventory. If you have any doubts, let me know. Do you have any doubts here? Satish, Manoj,
I'm good.
David, you're good.
Yeah.
Uh, Sai, Sandeep, are you understanding?
Yes.
Yes.
One doubt here. Suppose if a server is mentioned thrice, maybe one with the FQDN and in other place with the IP address,
Mm-hmm.
and if it is not a group, then when we fetch the server or when we push any code, will it apply it twice or thrice,
No,
or will it recognize?
it doesn't happen like that. Hello. So if
Uh,
you're saying that you are putting a single host name in different group. That is
not
what.
yeah, different
Okay.
group.
Yeah, nothing will happen when you are sorry. When you are running a playbook. 1 minute. I don't know. There is some problem here. So 1 minute. Hello. Can you hear me? See when you are yeah when you are putting a multi see when you are targeting this group, it will hit the machines which are there in this group. When you're hitting this group, whatever the host we have in this group, that is going to hit it. So you might be asking, so M node 1 is there in the DB server, I mean web server and DB server. So nothing problem. Whatever the group you take, it is going to hit there.
Yeah,
Same
if it
user
is in group, that it is okay. It will
user
trigger to that servers listed in that group. But time, my question is, suppose if the server list is a big one, suppose by mistake, if a server is entered twice in a maybe in a particular group,
If it is twice also, it will hit one time only.
Only one time.
Okay, it will
Okay.
hit one time only. That's not like that because you have mentioned twice and twice. It is not going to hit like that. You can try that.
Okay.
Okay, we can just see that. Hmm. So find this is all about like how the information is going to work. So now what we will do is very simple. We will just now we are going to talk something about a range. There is,
Bartender, I think your voice.
yes,
Uh,
yes. Actually, there is some problem with my headphones. It is keep on messaging me. It got shuffled automatically. I'm just trying to fix that.
okay.
1 minute, 1 minute. Microphones. It is not giving me this headphones here. Acha, it came. Now it came. Now can you hear me now? Can you see?
Yes,
Now
it's
it's
better.
clear.
Yep.
It's better right now,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep.
Actually, what happened is it immediately switches between the system speakers and system headphone microphone. Okay, instead of the headphone that I'm using, that's the reason it gets problem. So now we will see how to define a range. What is mean by range here? Maybe you can't define. Your client has given you 100 machines list, and 100 machines, like it has, the IP address is little bit range, right? At 192.168, 27.20, 21, 22, 23, like this. You can't put all this list per line one, right? So we want to define it as a range, right? So we will see how do we define a range here. So very simple. So always you need to define the range like this. So I'll just try to show you 190 to 168, 27. Okay, dot in a square braces, you try to define 20 colon 100, 20 colon 50. This is the way how do we define the range here, right? So this is a list of hosts with a series, IP addresses. Then how do we verify this? I'll try to run all. See, can you see this? The range is displayed here. Then this range can be a part of any group also. That is a different thing, right? So this is something, how do we define a range? Defining range is not only for, like for IP addresses, we can define the range for host names also, right? Let me define a range for host names also. Take an example. I'm having a like a machines like system A, okay, or system 1 to 10. So I'll just try to put 1 colon 10 here dot example dot com. This is the way how do we define the range. Now try to save this and I'll just try to run the inventory. And can you see this? The range has been defined like this. Are you following? So this is the way, like how do we define a range, right? Again, I'll try to show you like we have defined server A, server B, server C there, right? I want to define a range for it also. So how do we define it? Server, like I'll try to define a square braces. I'll try to put E2, E colon Z, E colon Z. Now you just try to save this. Then we will try to see how do we list a range. Can you see this? This is the way. How do we define a range? You can define a range for your IP addresses. You can define a range for your fully qualified domain name. You can define a range for your host name. So whatever the patterns that you're going to get, you can define a range.
Sir, small doubt.
Mhm. Tell me.
So if there is any difference, I mean, if it is not in SRS, if the difference is two, like one or two, so
Mm.
if it is two, four like that, how can we
Then
define?
you can't define such kind of patterns now. Okay. See, I got your point. You're saying that server A, server B, then there is a gap between server C and server D. Again, it starts with server E and server F. Then how, right? So that kind of things is not supported right now. Okay, if you have a range, you can define it. For example, you have like this. Do you understand this? What is this? 192, 168, series 4, series 5, series 6, series 7. In series 4, 0 to 255. In series 5, 0 to 255, 0 to 255 in 6, and 0 to 255 into 7. This is how exactly. This is how exactly it's going to work, right? But that kind of like whatever the question you have raised, that is right now it is not supported. That does never come under a range. That doesn't come under a range. Okay.
Okay.
So this is basically how the range is going to work, right? So always you need to work on a range, and we have seen how to verify the inventory. This is an ad hoc command that we are going to use to verify the inventory. Can you see that? Okay, now we are talking something about location of the inventory. See, when I'm just talking about the location of the inventory here, so basically the inventory file location can be in different locations here. So I'll just try to give you the information here. What are a different location where you can mention the inventory file name? The first important location of the inventory here is the default inventory file where it is there, etc Ansible and Ansible ANS Ansible.cfg is the default. I mean, not Ansible. Host, right? Host. This is a default inventory file. Remember. So this is a default inventory file. So as this is a default inventory file, remember. Okay. So as you can put the host names into this file, but as we discuss it, Ansible experts doesn't recommend, because you need to, I mean, you will be trying to put all the hosts into one single file of different projects. There's a lot of confusion will be generated and the file becomes very lengthy. It is really not recommended, right? So what we need to do now, okay, as we discussed, that you need to segregate the inventory based on the project. This is what exactly it is. And second one is, the second alternative is, okay, uh, inventory location inventory location can be specified through the Ansible.cfg file, configuration file. This is what we need to do, right? So still now we did not do this. We will do it now. I'll try to show you how do we call it. And the third one is, we are already doing it. Third one is, or using the -i option, okay, of -i inventory option to specify the location of the inventory file. So this is what we are doing it right now, right? What we did, we have taken an ad hoc command, we define the host pattern, we define -list -host, then -i followed by the inventory file name. This is what we are doing it. But this is, we are going to do it when you don't define the inventory within the Ansible.cfg file. Now we will see how to define a inventory file inside the Ansible.cfg file. Let me open and I'll try to show you the default configuration file here. Then later we will go with our configuration file. So Ansible.cfg file. See, the default inventory is updated here. Can you see this? Okay, in the same way, we need to create our own Ansible.cfg file and we will try to define the inventory location there, right? So let me show you, we are in the project directory, you just see. What I will do is, I'll just try to define vi Ansible.cfg file here. I'll try to open, and within the square braces, I will try to define a section called default. And below that, I'll just try to define the name called inventory is equals to inventory. You're getting my point. because you are working in a current directory, your configuration file is also on a current directory. I'm directly define the inventory file name. Otherwise, if it is there some other location, you need to define the path of the inventory, and then you need to define the name of the inventory. Right now, you just try to save this information here. Now you want to verify an inventory, then no need to mention the inventory name. Hyphen I is not required. Is it trying to list the inventory here? Is it trying to list the inventory? How whenever you are running this command, what it does, it is going to hit which file? Can you see this? I am putting hyphen V. V stands for verbose. It is hitting which file? Whatever the ansible.cfg file that you have created within the project directory, it is hitting that file. And within that file, we have defined the inventory location, right? So it is trying to hit that particular inventory and it is trying to list. Is this clear? So this is what exactly it is going to work. This is how exactly it is going to work. Is this clear?
Yeah.
Right?
So we're
Right.
gonna create separate Ansible.cfg
CFGFG file
inventory per project, right?
for every project. You are right. That means whatever the example we have seen here, I told you, right, there are different environment. You will have not only you will create an inventory file as well as ansible.cfg file also. Here also ansible.cfg file also. For every project, there will be a separate inventory file and the CFG file. You're getting my point, right? So whatever the playbooks you're going to write it for this environment, you will write it here. Okay, whatever you will write it here, you will write it. Okay, this is what exactly. I hope you're understanding, right? So this is what exactly it happens, right? You need to put hyphen V to know from where it is taking the inventory file, right? Is this clear? Right? So
Yes, sir.
the first one here is very simple. The default one, if you don't define any inventory, it looks first here in this location, right? Or else if you have defined the inventory through the ansible.cfg file, it looks, this is what exactly. And take an example, if you have not defined the inventory file within the ansible.cfg file, then you need to definitely use hyphen I. And hyphen I is not only for one purpose. Even if you have a multiple inventories, you need to use hyphen I. What is mean by multiple inventories? I am trying to create one more inventory. I inventory one I'm creating here. Then I'm trying to put the host names here: sys A, sys B, sys CD, sys E. Like this, I'm trying to put. Or I'll try to put something called IP addresses like 192.168.10.20. Okay, 192.168.10.21. Okay, anything you can put it. Now you want to verify this inventory. Then okay, when you run this, it is going to verify the inventory which you have defined inside the ansible.cfg file. But you did not define this. You'll ask me that you can I define this second inventory on inside the ansible.cfg file? No. One configuration file, one inventory which will support. You can't put multiple inventories inside a one configuration file. That is called ansible.cfg file. It doesn't support. Now, in these scenarios, what you need to do is you need to put hyphen I and inventory name. Is it working?
Bala,
This is
separate project, separate Ansible.cfg file will be there, right?
yes, it
Yeah,
will be
got it.
there.
Yeah,
Okay,
got it.
okay. So this is what exactly it is going to work. Hyphen I inventory. So if you have a multiple inventories in one project, okay, you will say that, boss, this is a prod. I am having a one project with the name called production, but inside this production, we have a two inventories. One is pre, another one is post. One is pre-production, another one is post-production. Then what I need to do? Okay, you can call one inventory to the ansible.cfg file and another inventory you need to call using hyphen I followed by the inventory name. You're getting my point? So this is exactly it is going to work. right? You will go to the database project, Oracle project. Inside the Oracle project, we have, testing and production, right? So maybe you have added the production to the ansible.cfg file, but testing you did not add it. Then if you want to perform anything on a testing project, testing machines, then you need to do -i followed by the inventory name you need to define. Okay, so this is what exactly it is going to work. Otherwise, you do one thing, you have to do one thing is create a separate directory for testing Oracle and production Oracle. Then try to define separate inventories, separate configuration files, then try to work on. This is what exactly it is going to be, right? So I hope you understood the location of inventory also, and you have understood how do we verify the inventory, right? So I'll just try to define, I'll try to put here like the patterns that we are going to go. So ad hoc command, this is an ad hoc command and followed by the host patterns. Okay, followed by like a, hyphen hyphen list hyphen host, then followed by hyphen I inventory. So you need to define hyphen I in case inventory file is not updated in ansible.cfg file. If it is updated, not no need, right? But still go with it. Now I'm going to give you the host patterns here. Okay. So what I'll do is host patterns here. Let's see. So first thing is I'll just try to put all. All is nothing but all hosts, irrespective of their groups, range, whatever it is there, right? Then I'll try to put ungrouped. What is ungrouped here? Ungrouped is nothing but the hosts which are not a part of any group. Or else you can put a group. Okay, this is called group. Group is nothing but it might be any group. Like I'm going to put a group name as a web server, DB server. Like this is called group, right? Or you can define the nested group like North India, right? This is all something called nested group. Remember, nested group. This is something called group, right? This is the way, right? So are you following this? All ungrouped. Web server is a group, DB is a group, nested group. We have seen this is the way. This is the way how do we go with the host patterns, right? And remember one thing here is this can be used like this also. Without defining the inventory also, you can just go. So there are differences here. You need to understand one thing. What is the differences? If you don't define the inventory file within the ansible.cfg file, you need to follow this. If you have defined the inventory within the ansible.cfg file, no need to mention hyphen I followed by the inventory name. Is this clear? Okay. So this is the two different examples that you need to follow, right? But always in real time environments, what we see is Ansible CFG file, we will try to update the inventory. And inventory also supports variables that we will discuss later. And describing the dynamic inventories, we will be discussing the dynamic inventories somewhere in the 7th chapter because we are going to use the dynamic inventories especially for cloud environments, right? So it might be Amazon cloud, it might be a Azure cloud, or it might be a Google cloud. You will be using this dynamic inventories for it, right? But right now we are not doing it. Just you can ignore it right now. And if you want to see more documentation regarding the inventory, yes, you can get into this and you can read the inventories here. You can read all these patterns here. So this is all about how it has been written. So this is how the inventory is written in YAML. Can you see this? This is the way, I mean, the inventories are written. This is a normal text, IN9. This is YAML format. So you can see this default groups, all ungrouped. Can you see this? All and ungrouped or group name. You need to define. Host in a multiple groups. Can you read this? Host can be a multiple groups. Adding a range. We have seen how to add a range. right? Adding a variable to the inventories. Leave it right now. We will discuss adding a variables to the inventories. We will discuss later. Okay, you can define inventory aliases also. Okay, so this is all. Of course, we are not going much into it. There say, see, there are many methods to work with the inventories, but if you start with what we have discussed, inheriting the variables, so we have to go with children, right? Suffix, we discussed that. So this is all about. So how do we use multiple inventory source? Can you see this? Multiple inventories means I want to use staging inventory and I want to use production inventories. Can you see this? I need to use -I. This is also one pattern. Using multiple inventory source. Using multiple inventory source. Yes.
So it executes in parallel.
Yes. It does never executes in parallel. It will take serial.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Secret.
It is going to. I mean, it is this. We are. I mean, first it will hit the staging. Inside the staging, we have two machines. Assume that. Okay, it will
Okay.
hit node 1 and node 2. Then it will go to the production. There we have a 4 machines, node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4. Like this, it will do always serial, not parallel. Not
Okay.
parallel. So this is what aggregating inventory source directory. Directories we will discuss later. Directory concept is not now. Connecting to the host behavior inventory parameters. This is all the parameters that you can define inside the inventories. Right? That's all parameters that we are going to define. Not now. We will discuss tomorrow. This is all. Right? So any doubts here, let me know. So you can see this example, one inventory per environment. You can define like this group of by functions. Okay, this is all about. Any doubts here, let me know. I hope you understood. Sai, I hope you joined.
Yes.
Yes, this is clear. So this is all about. Satish, you have any doubts, you can ask me.
Yeah, I'm good for now.
Yeah. So this is all about today's session exactly. Tomorrow, what we will do is very simple. We will try to go with working with configuration files and see, this is a guided exercise and you need to follow this guided exercise. Very, very important. I'll try to share the document today, nothing to worry. And you need to just work on this guided exercise. It's a scenario. Like once you start working with this kind of scenarios only, you will become more hands-on. Okay, you'll try to gain more knowledge. It's very important. So tomorrow what we will do is we will try to discuss about managing Ansible configuration files here. We will see like how do we manage the Ansible.cfg file. Basically, what is a default location? All these things we are going to discuss. Right? Any doubts here? Let me know. Otherwise, we'll stop here. Even I'm going to forward you the recordings.